This video shows the equipment and methods recommended in general for PFAS sampling for wastewater and for biosolids. It's important to not contaminate any of the equipment with personal care products or items that may contain PFAS. Follow your contract lab's instructions.
We're getting ready to sample PFAS for both biosolids and wastewater treatment plant effluent. Prior to sampling, I try to evaluate the best equipment needed to gather a representative sample. For today's sampling, I'm going to be using a NASCO swing arm sampler that I've modified. I've taken all the metal components off and put HDPE components on. A swing arm sampler like this, I can actually take and zip tie the sample bottle directly to the swing arm sampler and get a direct grab into the sample bottle, which is the preferred method. If I was unable to do that, then I have a stainless steel swing arm sampler, but it's a shorter fixed handle. You can transfer the sample from this into your sample bottle, but there's always a risk if you don't have proper decontamination, a risk for cross-contamination. Also, in your deeper wet wells, I have a stainless steel dipper bucket that I can lower down into a wet well on a cotton rope and collect a sample in a wet well. Ideally, you want to try to get your wastewater sample in the mid part of the stream of flow to ensure you get a representative sample. You can also use a composite sampler if needed, but then you want to ensure that your sample train, which is your suction tubing, your peristaltic tubing and such, is as clean as possible. I also have a bucket, stainless steel bucket with a scoop that I use for my biosolids composite sample. Prior to going out and sampling, I clean everything with a 2% solution of Citronox and scrub it with a brush. I triple rinse with distilled water. DI water is the preferable water, but distilled water is all I got, and I use a lot of water when I'm doing this. One of the things I do look for and make sure is that the water that I'm using is in an HDPE storage vessel, which you can see below that triangle. It's a little hard to see, but that does say HDPE below it. I have my sample bottles that were prepared at the lab. I normally do not open these coolers until the day of sampling, and then I fill out the chain of custody forms and the bottle labels using a Sharpie fine point or ultra fine point pen. I also make sure I have plenty of Ziploc bags in case I need to double bag the sample bottles or even the ice. So we're going to get things cleaned up, and we'll see you out in the field when we start sampling. So we have our chain of custody filled out. Our sample bottles have been filled out, ready for collection. This is the field blank, which I haven't taken out of the package yet. I will transfer this out in the field into the sample bottle when I'm collecting my samples. This is all according to my contract lab's directions. They also send with the directions a set of gloves, which I will start with since that's the materials that came from the lab. My dipper has been decontaminated and sealed up. All my other sampling equipment for my biosolids has been decontaminated. I've got my gloves and my water ready to go sample. Okay, so I got my sample bottle affixed to my swing arm sampler. This is the outfall where I'm going to be sampling. It's a little foamy this morning from the mixing of the bisulfite. Got the grab and then cap it right away. I'll do the same for the other 3 bottles. The field blank will just get poured into the other field blank bottle and packaged with the other samples. Biosolids monitoring, what I did was I did a grab composite. Here's my sample bottles. I haven't opened them until I'm ready to fill them.
but I go around my biosolids pile and I do kind of a grid all the way around the perimeter of the pile, digging down below the surface about a foot or so and getting a core sample, a grab from each area and composite that, and then mix it and put it in my sample bottles. So now the samples are collected, chain of custodies have been filled out, they're double bagged, and it's time to put them on ice and get ready to ship them.
To access technical resources, more fog videos, or to submit questions about fog and fog abatement, go to westernstatesalliance.org or the QR code at the end of this video.